Okay. Hi. My name is Richard Bernstein, and I'm in the city of Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand, reporting on a grant from the Pulitzer Center for Crisis Reporting. It's a very quiet place in Thailand, a Buddhist temple. And Thailand, in fact, is itself very quiet these days. But why? A few weeks ago, the military took power in a bloodless coup, and a junta is running this country and has it under extremely tight control. In a lot of ways, this is a very disappointing development for Thailand, because Thailand was for years, or has been for years, a kind of big hope for democracy in Southeast Asia. Thailand is a very successful country in many ways. It has full employment. It doesn't have serious or crippling ethnic conflicts. Its economy has grown from anywhere from 4% to 10% a year over the last 20 or 25 years. And it has a vigorous free press, or it has had a very vigorous free press. It has a very close relationship with the United States. It's the United States' closest ally in Southeast Asia. And yet at the same time, the country has been afflicted with almost constant political turmoil for about 8 years now. This political turmoil at its worst has led to a military crackdown in the commercial center of Bangkok about 3 years ago, in which 80 people were killed. Over the years, something like 200 people have been killed in a seemingly irreconcilable struggle for power between two large factions. They call themselves the red shirts on the one side and the yellow shirts on the other side. And when one faction has come to office, either through an election or through some non-electoral means, the other side has taken to the streets, paralyzed the country, forced some kind of a political change, and then finally, twice now in the last 8 years, the army has stepped in to take power. It all goes back actually to 2001, when a man named Thaksin, who actually comes from not far from here, not far from Chiangmai, from a town about 40 minutes drive from here, won a free and fair election and became the prime minister. Thaksin was a very hopeful figure to a lot of people. He poured a lot of money into the countryside. He gained a very loyal following among rural people, among farmers. He instituted, for example, a new healthcare program where people could afford to have health care, often for the first time in their lives, really. He made one-time cash payments to hundreds and hundreds of Thai villages. In 2006, he came up for re-election, and he became the first Thai prime minister to win re-election, to serve out his entire term and to win re-election, and he won in a tremendous landslide. So what was wrong? Even though Thaksin was very popular in some places, there were a lot of people in Thailand who felt that he was a corrupt figure, that he was using his office to enrich himself. He was already one of the richest men in the world, certainly one of the richest men in Thailand, a big telecommunications tycoon. There was a big feeling that he was corrupt not only in the political sense of, in the economic sense of amassing greater personal wealth, but putting his people, putting his cronies into key positions of power and eroding the institutions of democracy in Thailand, which were a little bit fragile to begin with. And this led to huge demonstrations by what were called the yellow shirts. Several years ago, they occupied the airport. Then 3 years ago, when not Thaksin himself, but Thaksin's younger sister, Yingluck Shinawatra, was prime minister, They occupied, then a few months ago, they occupied the Prime Minister's office, they occupied key government buildings. They really basically paralyzed the country. The police were unable to do anything about it. Finally, the military stepped in, and we have the situation that we have now, a military junta. It seems that a lot of people actually, for now, are supporting this junta because they feel that there were no really good guys in the Thai conflict. Both sides were a threat to peace and order, and there was really no alternative to the military stepping in. It's a complicated situation because you have to have a very good reason for overturning an elected government, and in the last 8 years, 4 elected governments have been overthrown either through the military or through some other non-electoral means. Anyway, it's happened again. Thailand is in a kind of wait-and-see mood right now. And what everybody is waiting to see is whether the military will be able to put into place some kind of a civilian government that doesn't return the country back to the turmoil of the past. Thaksin, who lives in exile abroad, still has what appears to be a majority of the electoral support, but there's a very strong minority that's ready to take to the streets whenever he or one of his cronies or one of his relatives comes to office. How the military will create a situation where this won't happen again is the big question for the future, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens.